What the fuck?
What's going on, guys? Big Al's Bike and Auto coming at you with what is probably one of the best deals I've ever gotten on a used vehicle. A vehicle that I was not looking for whatsoever, but I couldn't be happier that I bought it, especially for the price I paid for it, which you're probably looking at in the title of this video. So let me tell you how this happened. This morning the weather wasn't too great, and I said, okay, I might as well hop on Craigslist, take a look around for another toy, you know, maybe a classic front-wheel drive GM vehicle or an older BMW, the stuff I like to collect. It's a great time of year to buy those kind of cars because, at least up here in New England, winter's coming. A lot of people don't have a garage for those kind of cars and they sell them off cheap, or maybe they're looking to buy a truck and they need the money. Whatever the case, you find a lot of good deals on classic cars like that this time of year. So that's what I was looking for. And in the Craigslist search parameters, I typed in Chevy, and I was looking for maybe an old Chevy Celebrity, something like that. And this thing pops up. 2012 Chevy Sonic. Sorry about the wind, by the way. I'm sure it's really messing up the audio. We have like a, I don't know what's going on with the wind today. It's like a hurricane coming through here. So bear with me. I'm trying to talk as close to the mic as I can. Anyway, back to the car. This pops up on Craigslist, 2012 Chevy Sonic for $1,500, and I'm thinking, okay, these cars were pretty cheap when they were new, but $1,500 for a 2012, that's really cheap. So there must be something wrong with this car. Maybe it's got a blown head gasket, maybe it's a salvage title, maybe it's got 250,000 miles or a bad transmission. There must be something wrong with it. So I click on the ad out of curiosity. It says it's a one owner. It's had Mobil 1 oil changes since new, all highway miles, 165,000 miles, which is on the higher side for 2012. Typically you'd expect the miles to be lower, but obviously those are highway miles to be racked up in 5 to 6 years. Gentleman mentioned that he drove it to New York City twice a week from here in New England, which obviously will rack up quite some miles. And said there was no mechanical issues and pointed out a few cosmetic issues in the car, but nothing serious. So I said, shit, I'm going to give this guy a call. So I call him up. Turns out he lives about 20 minutes away from me. And he had just put the ad up this morning, today being Saturday, November 3rd. He said, yeah, I still have it. I just put the ad up. When do you want to come down? I said, yeah, I'll come down in about an hour. So I get over there, expecting this car is going to be a disaster. But how could it be that bad, right? It's a 2012, it's not that old. And I get over there, the guy's got it in the garage for me, ready to show it to me because it was raining. Nicest guy I've ever met. Extremely transparent. You could tell he was pretty well off. He was an airline pilot, big house, brand new BMW in the driveway. So I'm wondering, what did this guy have this car for? Well, he likes to buy cheapo economy cars like this for when he drives back and forth to New York City for his job as a pilot, to rack up the miles on and have them take the wear and tear of the road. But needless to say, he maintained this car very well. Mobil 1 oil changes every 5,000 miles. It's got 4 good tires on it. He just did the spark plugs recently, did the timing belt at 130,000 miles. So he's been maintaining the car very well, despite having it as a beater. And this guy obviously had plenty of money. He didn't really care about what he was going to sell the car for. And you guys know that I've been buying cars for years. I've done it as a business, as a hobby. So I know how to deal with sellers, make them feel good about me as a buyer, and work out great deals. Now, $1,500 was already a great deal. I was fully prepared to pay $1,500. But you know me, I'm going to try to get the best deal possible. So I took the car out and drove it. He said, go ahead, take the keys, take it down the street. And it drives perfectly. There is not a noise coming from this car. The engine is so quiet you can barely hear it, which for a 4-cylinder is surprising. And I have many Ecotechs, including this one, and they're usually pretty loud. This one's nice and quiet. No rattles, no ticks, no clunks. Car steers solid and tight. It doesn't feel like a 160,000 mile car. And again, that's because of the highway mileage. So I come back and I go, geez, I got to make up something to try to knock this price down because this car is perfect, with the exception of, and he pointed this out in the ad, so I couldn't say, oh, I didn't expect that. Couple dings here on the hood, and the paint's not faded. You can see there's an area that's dry. The car's just very dirty, and we've had this wind. There was leaves all over it, so I just rinsed it off real quick so I could show you guys the car without it being covered in leaves and branches. But you can see the paint's in great shape. Definitely needs a good cleaning. You know, it could use a buff and a wax, but there's no paint issues whatsoever. It's a New England car, so it hasn't had that strong sun exposure that a lot of my Florida cars have had. So we have those couple of dings on the hood. Got a ding right here. New York City dings, you know. And the worst of the damage, you can see there's a slight dent on this door down here, and the rocker panel's a little banged up. I guess he got plowed in a parking lot, and when he went to turn out where he was plowed in, the snowbank was a little more, the snow was very iced. It wasn't like a soft snowbank, and it indented the door a little bit. But again, that's the worst of the damage on the car. Otherwise, it's in great shape. It'll look even better with a wash and wax. Oh, and there's a crack in the bumper back here, and a little indentation right here that I can fix. I had a very similar damage spot on the Saturn. This side's in great shape, no damage over here. So the car's in really good shape. There's no rust underneath, surprisingly, but it is only 6 years old. Nice and clean. And no leaks, no bullshit. Oil's nice and clean. The thing's great. So I say, what am I going to tell this guy to try to knock the price down a little bit more? So, being that the struts are original, I said, you know, the car's going to probably need struts soon. He goes, actually, I was planning on doing that soon. But I didn't notice any issue with the struts. They're not making any noise. The ride's smooth. Doesn't feel harsh. But he goes, yeah, I was planning on doing that soon. Him hearing that, obviously knowing there's an expense to that, I said, well, with that in mind, and I'm here right now with cash in my hand, what's the best you can do in the car? I'll take it away. And he goes, well, I listed it for $1,500, but I was really thinking $1,200. And I'm thinking in my head, this is a $4,000 car, at least. I looked on Craigslist. The cheapest one I saw, it was a salvage title, was $4,900, and it had 140,000 miles, so not much less. This is a clean title, one owner, with impeccable maintenance history, and overall in great shape. Minor body damage, but I can fix. Honestly, I had that suction cup dead puller. Might be able to work this out a little bit, but it's so minor. You know, it's hardly noticeable at all. And look at the interior. Now, I will say the interior is pretty filthy. I think he was a smoker as well. Has a faint hint of cigarette smoke in here. Not that much, though. It was more just musty, if anything. You can see there's a burn mark in that seat. But I shampooed the hell out of these seats. Got them pretty much perfect. I gave it the good enough effort level. And I shampooed the back seat as well. And vacuumed the car, obviously. There wasn't like trash all over it, but you could tell he'd been using it to get his dog around. And obviously he was taking long road trips in the car to New York at least once a week. So there were some food wrappers and crumbs and things like that, but it wasn't that bad. So he said, back to we were talking price, he said, I was thinking $1,200. He goes, what are you thinking? And maybe I could have offered him even less, but honestly, I threw out, I said $1,000. I go, I think it's a $1,000 car. And he goes, okay, yep, I'll do $1,000. So we did it. And the guy was so nice, awesome guy. Because I drove over there by myself. I drove back home, and he followed me here, and then drove me back to get the car. Because I drove over there in the Escalades. I came back home with the Escalade. He follows me here, and then drove me back so I could get the car. So I didn't have to call an Uber or wait for anybody to be able to go with me. Awesome guy, really nice guy. He told me that he knew he was giving the car away pretty cheap, but he just didn't want to deal with all the craziness of Craigslist. Wanted to sell it and sell it quick. It's got the XM radio. Power locks, which is great, but it has crank windows. I love that. I love crank windows because I hate when window regulators go bad, which they always do, especially on GM vehicles. This is a huge bonus for me. You may think I'm crazy, but I would much rather have crank windows than power. And this interior smells nice and clean now, like cleaning chemicals. So let's go ahead and start it up. I have no problem getting out of the cold to do that. So like I said, this is pretty dirty inside when I got it, but what do you want for $1,000? I couldn't complain. I couldn't care less. I mean, the seats could have had feces all over them. For $1,000, I'll deal with it. I'll clean it. No check engine issues whatsoever. Whoa, don't want to get demonetized. But you can see there are no check engine lights whatsoever. Averaging 32 combined, 165,000 miles. The thing sips fuel. I've been driving it all day. And again, a real solid driving car. And look, the oil change is, it's not even due for an oil change yet. He just changed it recently. He also did the spark plugs recently. And what else has he done to the car? I think the electric fan he had to replace. Very minor stuff. He just did all new brakes recently. And the front tires have about 30% tread left. The rears are brand new, and they're all Michelin's, good tires. E-brake works. The gearbox is smooth as butter. No grinding whatsoever. Heat works, AC works. I guess what would you expect for a 5-6-year-old car, right? And the XM radio is still subscribed. I think he paid for like a year, every year recurring. So he said this will be good for a while. I've got XM radio I don't even have to pay for. Great deal on a awesome little car. This is a fun car to drive. You'd be surprised. I'm not just talking it up, trying to impress you guys. I don't think, if anybody doesn't care what people on YouTube think of what they drive, it's probably me, because I have all these old grandpa cars that I love so much, the Buicks and Cadillacs. And if I was trying to impress anybody, I'd be buying Audis and Lamborghinis and things like that. But you guys know it's not what I like. I'm a big GM guy, and I'm a big old German car guy. And most people don't care about that kind of stuff. But you know what? The few of you that do are here on this channel watching. Come listen to how quiet this engine is. Runs like a top. Engine bay needs to be cleaned. You see there's that classic New England corrosion. But like I showed you, the undercarriage is solid. Not sure if it's the type of metals they used in the engine bay that corroded so easily, but runs smooth. Recent timing belt, like I said. Drives fantastic. That furious Ecotec. I don't even know what the output is in this engine, how many liters it is. I have no idea. Might be a 2.2, might be like a 1.8. I have no idea. It kind of reminds me of the Ecotec in the Cruise, which I believe is a 2.2. Let's say it's somewhere in here. 1.8. Okay, I was right. I knew there was a 1.8 GM engine, but I gotta say, you would think this thing would be terribly slow. It's pretty fun to drive. Because of the manual, I'm sure in an automatic this thing's a bore. I'm gonna do my best to hold the camera and shift and steer. It's a seatbelt alert. Honest to God, this is a fast little car. I'm really impressed with it. When I went to drive it, I figured it was gonna be boring. Now again, I said this earlier, if it was an automatic, I'm sure this would be pretty dry to drive, but the manual makes it fun. I mean, it moves. It's got pickup, this little thing. Look at that red line, 6,500 RPM. It's a fun little car to drive, and it doesn't feel like a cheap car. GM has come a long way from the Cobalt days, and I have a Cobalt, and the Saturn is basically a fat Cobalt. Well, it's a Malibu, but the interior quality back then was very subpar. The stereo systems were awful. They downgraded from the 90s and 80s, where everything was very plush. They had the excellent factory Delco radios. But GM stepped it back up. For this car, at least. Now, this is a Daewoo, essentially, I'm pretty sure. I'm not sure about the engine, if that's a Daewoo variant. I know the Aveo I had, which was a year older, was a Daewoo in GM clothing. I believe GM bought Daewoo a long time ago. But anyway, this car feels very solid. There's no you can hear there's no rattles in here, no squeaking. And the finishes feel very nice. I mean, it's all hard plastic, but it's solid stuff. You know, it's kind of like the Japanese cars have that everything's hard plastic, but it's solid. It's not that shitty, like, Rubbermaid feel. And that dashboard, I think, is so cool. That digital dash with the big tack, it makes it feel sporty. And I'm telling you, I cannot get over how sporty. Look at, I'm going up this hill now in 3rd gear, and it's having no issue flying right up it. Zippy little car. You know, it's a hot hatch. It's a fun little hatchback to drive around. And I think it's going to make me a great daily driver. And I call everything a daily driver. The Escalade, the Saturn, this thing. But this will make a real good daily driver, especially for the fuel economy, the fuel savings. Again, it didn't really matter in Miami. I used to drive the Escalade everywhere because sitting in traffic, I don't care if you're driving this or the Escalade, you're getting shitty mileage either way. But up here, driving through the country roads every single day, that 10 miles a gallon's been killing me. Anyway, guys, that's it. Thanks for watching. Oh, and let me update you guys on 2 more things real quick. I know this video is getting kind of long. I thought it was going to be too short, but I talk an awful lot. The truck. The truck is fixed. You remember I was having some issues with the brakes. It was not the master cylinder, and that was my assumption too. A lot of you assumed the same thing. I found a very honest local repair shop based on their reviews and some townies I know around here who recommended it. And it was actually that I should have just looked underneath the truck and seen this, but it was one of the brake hoses, the flexible, whatever it is, brake hose in the front. So they fixed that. It was really cheap to fix. I think parts and labor was under $100. And I changed the oil on it just to get that freshened up. Also, I bought another car, a car that I've been trying to get my hands on for a very long time. Belonged to my grandfather, who has passed on. I'm not going to tell you guys what it is yet. There's videos of it on this channel. They're very old. I think there's 1 video of it, so maybe that'll give you a hint as to what it is. I'll give you another hint. It's a vehicle that Uberman, or Auto Auction Rebuilds, has owned and did a lot of videos on recently. And again, I'm not copying him. This vehicle's been in my family since 2002. Vehicle that I obsessed over in my younger years. Probably one of the vehicles that got me so into German cars and Mercedes. It's a money pit car for sure, and that's why it's already at the shop getting fixed. But I'm very excited about it. It is a very unique, awesome vehicle. So if you think you know what it is, take a guess down in the comments. You'll be seeing it in the next few days. I'm picking it up Monday from the shop. That's it, guys. Thanks for watching. I'm freezing out here. Had enough of the hurricane winds. I've got to get inside. I'm going to go edit this video and put it up for you to watch. And here are some of my babies in here, out of the weather and waiting for warmer weather. So thanks for watching. Keep an eye out for the next one.